Welcome to episode 246 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. I'm your host, Kim Newlove. Happy American Pharmacists Month. If you're an American pharmacist, it is our month. Happy American Pharmacists Month. Dr. Jade L. Ranger returns to the show today to talk about independent community pharmacy ownership, working with her pharmacist husband, Dr. Henry Ranger, services they provide, leaving a legacy, selling battle baskets, her book, which is titled Mustard Seed Mentality, Unscripted Pearls of Wisdom from a Wife, Mother, and Entrepreneur, and more. Yes, we cover a lot in our 45-minute interview. But first, if you're new to the Pharmacist Voice podcast, welcome. Again, I'm Kim Newlove, your host. I'm a pharmacist by training, but I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I'm a voice actor and a podcast host. My specialties are medical narration and podcasting. If you have a project in mind, whether it's an audiobook, a medical narration project, or something podcast related, contact me through my website, thepharmacistvoice.com. Before we dive into the interview, let me tell you a little more about my guest. Dr. Jade L. Ranger earned her PharmD from Hampton University in 2012. After spending almost a decade of her career working for big chain pharmacies, she, alongside her husband, Dr. Henry Ranger, opened the Prescription Shoppe, a full-service mom-and-pop pharmacy in March of 2019. Then on September 1st, 2023, just last month, they opened their second pharmacy, which is a long-term care pharmacy and compounding lab. Dr. Jade L. Ranger is a member of a number of professional and service organizations and has won several awards, including 2 40 Under 40 awards in 2022. Congratulations, Dr. Ranger. In addition to receiving numerous accolades and awards, she continued her education in 2022 by obtaining a board certification in anti-aging medicine through the American Board of Anti-Aging Health Practitioners. After that, she also completed a fellowship in anti-aging, metabolic, and functional medicine, which has the acronym FAAMM. That's FAAMM. When her schedule permits, she loves reading, yoga, and above all, spending quality time with her family. She lives in Williamsburg, Virginia, with her husband and their 2 children, Jacob and Joshua. The family attends New Zion Baptist Church, where they have been active members since 2011. Without further ado, here's my interview with Dr. Jade L. Ranger. Hi, Dr. Ranger. Welcome back to the Pharmacist Voice podcast. How are you?
I am so good, and I'm so glad to be back. Thank you so much for having me. I always enjoy chatting with you.
It's my pleasure. You were on episode 227 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast, and you're back just a couple months later because in October, it's American Pharmacists Month, and it's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I understand that you have experience with independent pharmacy and your family has experience with breast cancer. And I want to make sure that I honor both of them, American Pharmacists Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Let's dig into this. You are an independent pharmacy owner with your husband, Dr. Henry Ranger. Jade, I would love to hear, how'd you get into independent pharmacy ownership?
So you're right. My husband and I own the Prescription Shoppe, which is a full-service independent community pharmacy. We opened in March of 2019, so we will be celebrating our 5-year anniversary coming up early next year, 2024. And then this past September 1st, so just a few weeks back, we opened our second pharmacy, which is our long-term care, and it's also a compounding lab. So we're excited about that. And when you ask how I got into this, the very transparent answer is kicking and screaming. I tell people all the time that my husband, he had the vision. I was not a believer initially. I think a lot of people think that because we met in pharmacy school, we both graduated from Hampton University School of Pharmacy. He was a year ahead of me. When we started dating and the fact that this eventually came to fruition, people thought this was a plan all along, and it wasn't. And I've spoken very candidly about that fact. So when he approached me in July of 2018 about, hey, we should open our own pharmacy, I was saying, I don't think so, because we had a young family and there was a lot of financial risk involved. It has been one of the absolute best decisions that I've made. It is the most fulfilled I've ever been in my career. And we just enjoy engaging with our community. The Prescription Shoppe, while there are other prescription shops around the country, this is not a franchise. This is not a chain. We are the Prescription Shoppe here in Williamsburg, Virginia. We are the first Black-owned pharmacy here in Williamsburg, Virginia. And this is a real ground-up operation where the two of us, have hustled along with our staff to create a more patient-centered practice.
Thank you for explaining how you got into independent pharmacy ownership. And congratulations for almost 5 years in the business. That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I've heard that the first 3 to 5 years are the hardest. What are your thoughts?
I would agree with that. I think, it's pedal to the metal. You are hustling, working extremely hard to make sure that your business is viable, right? That it keeps living, that the sacrifice is worth it. And, we're still kind of in that pedal to the metal state, honestly. We're always thinking of how we can grow, expand, evolve, how we can improve upon what we're already doing and make it better. So we are very much in that grinded out stage still.
I looked on your website and you have a lot of different services, a lot of different tabs in your navigation bar. You have your home tab, your About Us, your services, medical supplies, CBD products, resources, Ranger Consulting, which I'm saving towards the end of the conversation, and the Contact Us. Out of all of the stuff in your navigation bar, what are you most proud of, or where do you like to spend your time?
I would say probably our services, because I think the thing that's always special about independent pharmacy is we are not, just dispensing medications. And not that there's anything wrong with just dispensing medications, because people need their prescription medications, in many cases to stay alive, depending on the severity of the illness or the disease state that the prescription medications are treating. But I appreciate that in independent spaces, we have the opportunity to really offer the services that we see fit for our community and our patients as a whole, or our patients and community as a whole, rather. And so in addition to filling prescription medications, we also do a ton of vaccines, including travel vaccines. But we go out into our community the months of September to almost the middle of November is our busiest season. We, in addition to doing about 70 plus shots in our store every day, we also travel around town to the various senior living communities. So we bring the Prescription Shoppe and the vaccines to them. That is very helpful. We also partner with our local school district to do the same thing. We are in a college town here with the College of William and Mary. We are partnering with them this year as well. So really getting the opportunity to get out into our community makes a huge difference. But in addition to the vaccines, the medication therapy management, we have patients that come in all the time. We have the time to sit, or we make the time to sit down with them, go through their regimen, see what can be adjusted, if everything is appropriate, if something needs to be DC'd or something needs to be added on. We also do pill packaging. So that's something that's extremely helpful for our patients who suffer from dementia or have caretakers involved, or just have several medications and they have a hard time keeping up with them. And that's something a lot of our seniors deal with. So putting together pill packs for them where they can tear off their daily doses, either for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever the case may be, and all of their prescriptions and also supplements are in the same place, is extremely helpful for them. It helps them keep track. So just the additional things I think that you're able to kind of focus on that are patient-specific to make sure that your patients are thriving and help with patient outcomes makes a huge difference.
It sounds like you have a lot to offer, and I think that's amazing. When you started the Prescription Shoppe almost 5 years ago, did you offer all of those services from the beginning, or have you added things over time?
We've offered majority of them. Things that we added on, compounding for one. So compounding is a big piece of our business. And the reason why compounding is so important is because it is patient specific. So when you're talking about a patient that needs a certain formulation or a special dosage, it's nice that we're able to then whip up these special medications for them. And so we have patients who are on G-tubes, or we have patients who need a certain dose. And we have plenty of pet patients who need, transdermal methimazole, whatever the case may be. And so we're making these things for them. That is something that we did not initially plan on getting into. We started that maybe almost a year in, and it's really taken off. It's a very, I think, needed service. And so we're very glad that we kind of got into that. In addition to the pill packaging, that's not something that we initially started with that we grew into, I would say probably around that same time frame, maybe within a year and a half after opening the store.
That's awesome. I love compounding. That was one of the things that I liked most in pharmacy school. Now, I know that you've been out of pharmacy school greater than 10 years. Did you find it difficult to get back into compounding, which, not everybody does at a large chain retail situation, which is where you came from prior to starting your own business? So, what was that like for you getting back into compounding after a little bit of a break?
Honestly, it was like a relearning process. There were some things that, of course, you remembered that stuck with you, some of the, very basic procedures. But to your point, yes, when I worked with the larger chains, the most that you were going to get compounding from us was maybe a magic mouthwash, and that was about it. We're doing, LDN, so low dose naltrexone. We're doing hormone replacement therapy, creams, capsules. There's nasal sprays, chapsticks, lozenges, lollipops, all types of things that we're able to create, vaginal, anal suppositories. And so it was definitely this relearning process, because I feel like even some of the things that we make now, we didn't necessarily, I don't remember making those in pharmacy lab, pharmaceuticals. Like I don't remember that. So there was a lot of kind of I think on the job training that took place, of having to do our own research and also acquire additional certifications as it relates to compounding. So it was, I would say, something that we didn't plan on doing that created kind of a positive challenge, because it forced you to kind of learn, expand your knowledge, expand your expertise. And we're still learning every day. We're still also like, oh, this is something that maybe we should start making, or maybe we need to adjust our base a little bit, or different things. So it's kind of like you learn as you go. But also the patients love it. It's a wonderful service. A lot of people benefit from it, especially, our women patients who are going through menopause and they're having to deal with all of the nasty, in some cases for some, side effects that come along with going through that stage of life. And they just talk about the difference that some of these creams and capsules make for them. So while, yes, it was something we had to kind of relearn, it has been a welcomed, I think, challenge for us. And we were very happy to rise to that occasion.
Awesome. I'm kind of jealous that you get to compound, to be honest. I used to really, really love that in pharmacy school. And that's why I asked, like, how was
It's
it getting
cool.
back up to speed? But you seem to enjoy it.
It is very cool.
Oh, I love it. I love that your customers, your patients enjoy it as well. Being able to go to their local pharmacy instead of
Mm-hmm.
sending away for something or going to the next big city. I would find that annoying myself. So you are definitely serving a much needed role there in your community.
And if I can just add on to that, to be honest, even when it comes to the compounding, there's some things that even doctors are not truly familiar with themselves. And so we've gotten to a place where doctors will literally send us the labs of their patients, and we will then come up with what their regimen should be based on the labs that they sent when we're talking specifically about HRT. And we then send that back to them and they sign off on it. And that is what their patient gets. And they track the labs and everything looks good. And so again, a very welcomed challenge, because, there's so many things that if you don't have experience, you wouldn't know. But getting the hands-on training has been very interesting, but also a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love the clinical piece that you just brought up, because if you get to look at the labs and collaborate with the physicians, that is awesome. That's practicing at the top of your license right there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That's an inspiration. Now, when it comes to your pharmacy, what is your favorite thing about working at the prescription shop?
My patients, hands down. I feel like, and I've always been, I've told you in conversations past, I'm a bit of a chatty Cathy. I will talk to people anywhere. So I just love connecting with people. And I always try to make sure that I did that even when I did work for the bigger chains, but I'm able to do it in a much greater way in our own pharmacy. And so to see patients that have been coming, some of them since day one, and the fact that they've been able to see our little boys grow up and they hear them playing in the back, or they'll see them running through the store sometime, and that I also know what's going on with their family. We're on first name basis. They come in, I can say, hi, Mr. Such and Such, and I'll go, how's it going? And, they'll tell me something. The next time they come in, I'm following up. Oh, so how did that work out for your granddaughter? And just knowing that they're not just a number, but they're truly a patient, and they see me as a person as well. We've built up that rapport, because I say it all the time. we talk about it as a whole in our profession, that pharmacists are truly the most accessible healthcare provider. And unlike when people are going to see their primary care physician or specialist, we're not just seeing someone once or twice a year. We see people in our area sometimes 2-3 times a week. And not all the time because they're coming to pick up a prescription. Where our pharmacy is located, it has a wonderful location. People sometimes are just stopping in because they were across the parking lot at Starbucks and they wanted to stop in and say, hey, see how our day was going. Or they're dropping cookies off for us, or they just picked up dry cleaners and they stopped by to pick up vitamin D over the counter. So we see our patients on a very regular basis.
I love that you say that your patients are the favorite part. That's really sincere, and I respect that. I miss some of my patients. I remember their names, and they would come in with pictures. I used to work at Walgreens. They would go to the 1 hour photo, get their pictures, and they'd say, "Hey, I know you're busy. I don't need a prescription. I'm just picking up my photos, but I want to show you this picture of whatever. Like I have 14 motorcycles in my garage. I love motorcycles, and they pick up on your interests, kind of like what you were saying. Your interest very much is your boys right now because they're, under 10 and doing all the things, and and they probably want to know what's up with them. And I love it when they kind of integrate into your life and you just know what's going on with them. And
Absolutely.
it's a community, just a community. You are part of the community.
It's a real part of the community. There's very little times that patients come in and they're not asking, oh, how are the boys? How are they adjusting to school? Because our little ones started kindergarten this year, and so they're all into how is Joshua doing? And they're as invested in our journey, I think, as we are in theirs.
Awesome. I love that. That's so great. Is there any other service in particular that you provide that you'd like to talk about, or any products, any special features of your pharmacy that you want to make sure that people know that independent pharmacy owners can offer?
Mm-hmm. I would say this one would probably go to our second location, which is a big focus on long-term care. And the reason why I want to mention that is because I think that is a model of pharmacy that kind of gets left out of the conversation all the time. And while no, it might not be in a community setting, it's still very needed because there's, especially in our area, we are a huge retirement population. So you have seniors in these various independent and also assisted living communities. And to have a pharmacy that they can trust, that they already know because that relationship is established, because as I mentioned earlier, we go in and do their vaccines and things like that. We built up a rapport. So they trust us. And so now we've been able to establish these relationships over the course of some years. And now we're going to be their primary provider for their skilled nursing patients. And I think that is a space that has a lot of room for growth. And so just in our area alone, we will be the first long-term care pharmacy on what we call our peninsula. So the long-term care pharmacies that are closest to us are both over an hour away. And the reason why that becomes an issue is because for our local senior living communities, they need a stat med. Something's supposed to get delivered. It usually shows up late or not at all until the next day. They don't have personal relationships with their pharmacy providers. So they are calling and they're on hold, trying to get in contact with someone, having to call a 1-800 number versus just being able to call, my husband and I on their cell phone and actually get in contact with us. So that is a service that we are just getting into that I'm super excited to provide, because I can't tell you how many complaints we've heard from our local senior living communities just about the service that they've had to deal with. And I think a lot of times it's because of the lack of resources, right? If there's only 1 or 2 tricks in town, then, unfortunately, sometimes people will take advantage of that because they know there's no other options. While that's a closed door facility, and most long-term care pharmacies are, to be honest, it's a very needed service. And so our community is super excited to know that not only is a new long-term care pharmacy here, right in our locality, but it's also from owners that they already know, have built up rapport and trust with. And so they are excited to have those partnerships.
It's like repeat business, right? You've already done their vaccinations and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely. They extend that trust to you as a brick and mortar pharmacy. So that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I know that we've been talking about some of your favorite services and your favorite things, But I've got to ask you, is one of your favorite things also working with your husband, Henry?
It is. It really is. I know that was an ongoing joke when we first started talking about how we were going to open a pharmacy together. There's a lot of people who wonder, like, oh, I don't know if I could work with my spouse. And honestly, we love it. I mean, it keeps things new and fresh all the time. We never run out of things to talk about because in addition to our home life with our family and our two little boys, we also are able to continue to dream together and vision different things and then work to actually make those dreams come to fruition. And so it's cool to have someone that you can collaborate with, that you can be truly and authentically yourself, that you feel 100% comfortable with, that sometimes you have contentious conversations with as you are working through these different plans and as things are coming up, but you have enough love and respect for one another, and you know that you're doing it for not only the overall betterment of your family, but your community as a whole. So we both really, I think, take that responsibility extremely seriously. And I think that we are really good business partners, in addition to life partners.
I was just going to say business partners and life partners. It doesn't get any tighter than that. I mean, your lives are so intimately intertwined. You have the children, the marriage, 2 pharmacies now, a household, and you're trying to leave a legacy too. Would you like to talk about the legacy that you're trying to leave?
Absolutely. And I think to your point, and that's actually something we were talking about last night at dinner. I told him, I said, because on a different note, something that I do on the side, I really enjoy writing. And when you had me, on your first podcast, it was for my book, Mustard Seed Mentality. But I also have a local column in our newspaper, the Virginia Gazette here. And so that is called hashtag Parent Life Unscripted. And it talks a lot about parenting and, the relationship that you have with your kids and all topics related to parenting, essentially. And the thing that's been so cool is that the Prescription Shoppe and the success that we've had with the Prescription Shoppe has kind of afforded me these other little stages. And so the writing is one of them. And when you talk about securing a legacy, my husband and I were talking about the article that I just recently submitted to my editor, and he said it's so crazy how you came up with an entire article based off of one comment that Joshua made when he came home from school. And I said, well, I think it's also cool because it's like cementing a legacy. I said, when our kids get older, for better or worse, whether they like it or not, they're going to be able to go in the archives and see that there were these monthly columns where mommy was talking about their different growing pains and how she was adjusting as a mother and as a parent and the different stages that they were going through. And that's something that they will forever be able to Google, or, we keep a paper copies, kind of like a keepsake for the kids. And I was like, that's something that they will be able to show not only their kids, but their kids' kids. And that's like a lasting legacy that I think we would have had in this area specifically, because they have not seen young people of color who are not from here, have no roots in this area, kind of take off the way that we have with this successful small business that now, to your point, in less than 5 years, we are able to have the second location. And it has inspired a lot of people, and not just Black and brown people, but everyone. They're always cheering us on. They're rooting us on. And they talk about how much of an impact we've had in this area.
Jade, you as a mother are so relatable to me. I would read the article. It doesn't matter, Black, brown, whatever. But yeah, I understand that you're leaving a legacy, as in you're writing words that will live on forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because newspapers, how many people look them up, old ones, on microfiches, with the little square and it looks like a little magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100 years from now, your great-grandchildren might be reading what you wrote. That is a cool legacy. I know that you enjoy writing very much, and I hope that your children someday appreciate what you have written. I know what you mean about your kids someday reading things that you wrote about them when they're little. I can listen to old podcast episodes where I'm talking about my kids as they're like 14 and 15 and 16 and 17, and one of them graduated and now he's in college. I know. And I don't think has heard them. So hopefully my voice is still out there. God knows what'll happen to me, but I'm leaving a legacy too. And I relate to what you're doing. Yours is the written word. Mine's the spoken.
I love it. And it's like you said, it's relatable. I think the important part too is because I can't tell you how often I have patients who are 80, 90 years old that I'm talking to, and they're like, I look forward to your article every month, and I know I'm far beyond that season, but I wish I had your column when I was rearing my kids, but I pass it on to my daughter or to my granddaughter because she's in that season, but I still enjoy all of the things that you're saying, and I find myself just nodding along as I'm reading your monthly column. And so you're able to connect with so many people. And so it has been an extremely cool experience. I'm so thankful and humbled that I know that God called me for this moment, and the impact that I get to have on others. It's not something I would have ever envisioned for myself, but I'm very thankful to be in the position I am in.
Well, and I'm thankful that you're in the position that you're in too, because I enjoy reading what you've written. And in your book, you have a chapter that's called Legacy Matters. Would you like to talk about that chapter at all in Mustard Seed Mentality?
Absolutely. So I think for me, I'm always very acutely aware that what I'm doing now is not just about me and about right now. I care very much about legacy and my future generations. I already pray over future generations right now. My little boys was our nightly prayer. I talk about, praying that God is preparing their spouses right now to be Proverbs 31 women who are being in a loving and nourishing environment. And the reason why I do that is because, again, it's not just about me. And I think that I was raised in that same type of environment. My grandmother just turned 99 years old this past July 17th. She and I are thick as thieves. We're so close. And I feel so honored to be a part of her lineage, to be her granddaughter, because she was, a trendsetter, a trailblazer in her own way. She was born in 1924. So she has seen a lot of history, and she has reared 7 children, and our family is extremely close. And I see now, sacrifices that, my mom will tell me that my grandparents made and things like that. And you see certain things come to fruition in your own life. So I very much want to follow in her footsteps in that way of not thinking just about myself or my immediate family, but I think about how close I am with her and how without Carrie Hill, there would be no Jade Ranger. And that is inspiring to me because I think to myself all the time, what will my future grandchildren think? What legacy or lasting impact would I have left that will encourage or inspire them? So that's really, really important to me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And oh my gosh, what a celebration you're going to have coming up. 100-year birthday.
That is the hope. Yes, yes.
Wow. Yeah, that could be very exciting. I'm sure she's very, very proud of you.
She is. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for talking about legacy. And another thing that it's kind of a legacy type of a thing, you have Ranger Consulting, and your legacy of being pharmacy owners is something that you can share with future generations of pharmacy owners. So, would you like to talk about Ranger Consulting and how you help future pharmacy owners with what you know?
Absolutely. So I will say that, over 5 years ago now, when Henry and I decided that we finally agreed and we were going to branch out, take this major leap of faith, and try to build a prescription shop from scratch. We really did not have a blueprint, to be honest with you. We were solely relying on our experience from working in the retail setting, the bigger chains, the experience that we had gained over, that 6 or 7 years prior to us branching out and starting our own small business. And there was no blueprint. There was no real mentorship that we had. We would try to reach out to some other pharmacy owners. Some were willing to help and answer questions. There were plenty who really weren't, unfortunately. And so we kind of had to truck along and figure it out as we went. And so for us, we kind of decided that we wanted to create something, a space where people had mentorship if they were interested in opening their own independent pharmacy. And so we decided to come up with Ranger Consulting. And it has been such a fulfilling space to be in because I never would have planned for myself consulting anyone really on anything. But knowing that we are creating what I like to call safe spaces for people, because while yes, Ranger Consulting is offered to everyone, honestly speaking, it is specifically to target pharmacists of color. Because when Henry and I are in certain rooms, we are the only pharmacy owners that look like us. When we go to these major conferences, and not that there aren't others out there, there are, but the number is so small, it's not even quantifiable on Google. And so I'm a very big champion of Black and brown pharmacy ownership because you just don't see enough of it. And, I think, and this is a stat that I will, quote all the time, as of 2018, only 4.9% of pharmacists were Black or African American. That is a very small amount. And when you start talking about ownership, it's much, much less than that. And so we want to build this Black and brown coalition of pharmacy owners, not, franchising from us, their own pharmacies across the nation. And so the majority of the clients that we have worked with have all been Black and brown pharmacists, some in Texas, one in Florida, the DC area, now one actually a little bit closer to home, actually two in Texas. But it's been cool how they feel comfortable having these conversations with us. They are so thankful to have someone who looks like them, who's walked this road before, who can give them honest feedback, because we're very transparent. We're saying, hey, learn from our mistakes. There are some things that we kind of had to work through, but now that we're on the other side of it, we realize this is probably the way that we should have gone about it. And so we can give them those pearls of wisdom to kind of save them some time, blood, sweat, and tears. And they're extremely thankful for that.
What's the feedback that you've gotten from them other than being thankful, but are they successful pharmacy owners at this point?
So one of them, yes, very successful. He's in the DC area. The one in Florida, she's had a few struggles, to be honest with you. So she's still kind of trying to work through that. And then the other couple that we're currently working with have not had their grand openings yet. So one is coming up in October. Another one is coming out. Their grand opening is coming up in December. So they're very excited just to, I think, have guidance along the path, because it's not easy. And we've done it twice now, and I can tell you it is a hellacious process. It is a lot of work. It is not like any other business model. Opening a pharmacy and having to get the sign-off from the Board of Pharmacy is not an easy task. And for us to have passed both of our initial inspections on the first try is major. And also have, in our current location, they've now been back a few times to come look through your records. I mean, that's such a grueling process. You have a pharmacy inspector, they're in there with you for 6 hours. So the fact that we're able to go through these inspections without the backing of any major corporation, and we're still able to pass with flying colors, that's a big deal.
Congratulations. 6 hours for an inspection. Whoa.
Oh yeah, they're going through all your records.
That is something. Wow.
Yes. It's intense, but luckily we built up really good rapport with our Virginia Board of Pharmacy inspectors that come in, and I know that they have a tremendous amount of respect for us as well.
That's good, as they should. Independent pharmacies are less common than the chains, especially large chains. So much respect to you. I like that you're doing this consulting. I know anybody that is a consultant themselves cuts the learning curve for whoever they're mentoring or teaching. What can you tell me about what you've learned by mentoring other people?
I've learned that there is community in the fact that there are people who want the help. I think people don't have a problem humbling themselves and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. I just need the help and the resources. And it's not like we're sitting here holding anyone's hand, but just giving people a little bit of support, checking in with them. They will text us, they will call us. We have, 1 hour plus Zoom sessions, every other month, kind of just checking in. Where are you now in this process? How is this going? I think that what I've learned, because a lot of times, you would think, oh, you don't know how successful a venture like that is going to truly be. We come up with Ranger Consulting, but who's really going to be interested? Are people seriously going to reach out? And we've been pleasantly surprised to see how many have reached out and actually want our counsel. So
you're giving people hope too, because if you have done it, then they can do it too. Now, I know that you, as you've written your book, Mustard Seed Mentality, have a favorite Bible verse. I think we should talk about this at this point, because you're basically giving pharmacy owners to be a mustard seed. So would you mind sharing with me your favorite Bible verse?
Yeah, so it is Matthew 17:20. And in a nutshell, it talks about having little faith. And so it actually opens up saying, oh, ye of little faith. And it talks about how, so often it doesn't take much. A mustard seed is such a small amount. It's so small. But if you look at the size of a mustard seed, what it produces. And so that's how I try to live my life. It doesn't take much, just a very small amount of faith and it can truly move mountains. And that's what the Bible verse talks about. And so I think I have seen that come true time and time again in my life. The Prescription Shoppe being the most recent memory that I have, because I knew how against it I was initially, and that I was very scared, and I was trying so hard to hold on to the safety net. And I could almost hear the Holy Spirit just leading me, guiding me, like, you're still trying to hold on to this safety net, because I wanted to keep my part-time job with Walmart. I was scared to completely quit my job, because at that time our family's benefits and insurance and everything was through me. And I felt like what I was being told was, you're still trying to hold on to the safety net, cut it, and I will take this beyond your wildest dreams. And so to have so clearly heard that message over and over again for a course of months before I actually finally did put in my 2-week notice, and then to see how this has played out, I thank God all the time. Every evening that I work in my store, before I shut the lights down, I always just take this look around, and I'm like in awe that I can't even, because like it's unbelievable to me. I'm like, this is actually a real pharmacy. Like, people are coming in here, our shelves are stocked. It's operating, and it operates in my absence. It operates in my husband's absence. It took a lot of time away from our primary location for us to get our second location up and running, and to know that even though our patients were missing us and wondering where we were, because we have spoiled them very much, to see that it was still thriving in our absence. I mean, it was just like, wow, you're having this moment to yourself, like, man, this is a real business, and it's doing well, and it's even doing well in my absence. So the mustard seed mentality is real, and that it has had a major impact on my life.
Jade, I love that Bible verse. I really do. And I love that it means so much to you. And I hope that everyone listening feels like Jade has taken a little jar of mustard seeds, a little McCormick brand jar of mustard seeds, and taken a single seed out of that jar and put it in your hands as you're listening to this. If she can move mountains twice now, then you can do it too.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing all that. And I almost cried because it was so awesome. I just feel like it takes so much faith to step out on your own, and you and your husband did it at the same time while having 2 young boys. I can't tell you how much I respect that. Much respect.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hate to pivot away from this because I feel so good about what we just talked about, but I do want to pivot to talking about breast cancer awareness and a service that your pharmacy offered. Can you talk about the battle baskets that you offered a couple of years ago? You started offering them a couple years ago, still offer them now. What's a battle basket? Tell us all about it.
So Battle Baskets is something that came about organically. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, as is my older sister. And unfortunately, the BRCA gene mutation runs in our family. And so that's been a hard thing to deal with, because several of my family members, not just my mom, not just my sister, I've had first cousins, one who unfortunately did not make it through her battle, who have dealt with the breast cancer now at this point. Thankfully, I tested negative for the mutation, but I still have to go and see an oncologist once a year. I still have to get a mammogram and an MRI every 6 months just to stay on top of things. And that is something that I am very serious about, because I know that early detection saves lives. And so when I started having some of my patients that were being diagnosed with breast cancer, because I have seen that journey up close so many times now with people who I'm extremely close with, I started trying to figure out how I could support them in the ways that I've supported my mom, my sister, my cousins. And so I decided to start putting together what's called Battle Baskets. And essentially, it's just a basket of different things that I handpicked to help people along their journey. And so the original baskets were mainly geared toward breast cancer, and they would have different things to help people along their chemotherapy journey. And so it would always have a warm blanket, because a lot of times it's cold in there, and the chemo patients talk about being cold. It would have warm, fuzzy socks. There would be ginger chews to help with nausea. There would be adult coloring books with positive affirmations and coloring pencils, because a lot of times those treatments are 3 to 4 hours long. You're sitting in there, there's only but so much Netflix you can watch. And, for some, coloring, that's a therapy. And so it allows you to kind of take your mind off of it, keep your hands busy doing something that you enjoy. There would also be a book in there, a couple of books. One is like all these letters compiled from different breast cancer survivors, and they're handwritten letters that they've created and made into a book where it kind of is supposed to encourage women along their journey and let them know, like, hey, I've walked where you are now, and this is how I coped then. This is how I'm still currently coping as a breast cancer survivor. Just little things like that, I think, to lift people's spirits. And what it turned into and kind of evolved into is being battle baskets for all. So even beyond breast cancer, we were doing sympathy baskets for different types of cancer, colon, ovarian, uterine cancer, even for early or late stage miscarriage. So primarily, yes, the baskets were for breast cancer. And it also kind of raised awareness because in addition to having the gifts in there would always be resources reminding people of different organizations. We have an organization in our area that's huge called Here for the Girls, and that specifically is for women who are less than 51 years old who get diagnosed with breast cancer. So it kind of gives them resources to support groups and also kind of to build friendships with people who are in that same space. So I think it was something that has had a tremendous impact on our community as well.
Jade, it sounds like you did it as a service to some patients at first, and then it kind of turned into a business. Is that right?
That is right. Yeah. What happened was I was quietly making these behind the scenes. We were not talking about this at all. And then after doing that for about, I would say almost 2 years, I had someone out of the blue that called me and said, hey, I want to order one of your gift bags that you put together for breast cancer. I had a friend who was diagnosed, and I was like, oh, I don't actually charge for them. It was something I just did, on the side, just, out of the kindness of my heart. And she's like, oh, well, one of my friends was ranting and raving how she, ordered from you, this beautiful bag. Because at first, if they were bags, they were gift bags that I was doing, I turned it into baskets. And I was like, oh, well, I will certainly make one for you. And then before I knew it, I had another person who reached out. And I said, oh, is this God, giving me another message that this is something that I should actually be offering as a service? And so it kind of took off from there.
I love that you did that. I think that's amazing. And I think every independent pharmacy in America could, I don't want to say copy, but could also do something similar in their communities. I think that's a community building activity right there.
Mm-hmm.
Even if people are purchasing them, for you to be the go to source that has it figured out and has it for purchase, I think you deserve to be paid for that. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you. I think another part of it too is because I have been very open about my family's cancer journey. They also felt a personal connection as well because they knew that where these bags turned into baskets originated from was a place of me seeing my own mother, my own sister have to go through this journey. No one wants to sign up for it. It is a very grueling thing, but when you're on the other side as a survivor, it's amazing to look around and see the people who, help you keep going every single day. And so they know that when I was creating these baskets for people, it's coming from a genuine place of what can I do to lift this person's spirit because I know what that's like.
Absolutely. Everyone can relate to your why for creating those bags that ended up becoming baskets for sale. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anything else about battle baskets before we move on to the next topic?
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Jade, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to talk a little bit about your book, Mustard Seed Mentality.
So my book really just came from a place of, I love writing. I love reading. I told you before, I'm an avid reader. I'm always reading something. And honestly and truly, my first love is reading and writing. I powered through the math and science courses because I needed to in order to get the degree that I wanted, but I really, really enjoy writing on the side. And as I was a little bit earlier in my journey of being an entrepreneur and trying to really balance or find that balance between being a small business owner, an entrepreneur, but also a wife, also a mother, how I'm wearing all these different hats at the various organizations I'm a part of in the community. And, I'm a board member here and there. And so I started thinking, you know what? I know that I'm not the only hard working woman, in America who is dealing with these same things and kind of trying to just figure it all out. And so I started kind of just thinking to myself, I have a message that I can share with other women. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert in any of these areas, but I have some things that I can share that have been helpful for me. And so maybe this will be helpful for someone else. And I was very pleasantly surprised that as I started thinking about putting this book together, I essentially typed the whole thing on my phone because I always had my phone with me. So if I was waiting for my kids at Taekwondo or at a dentist appointment or ever had some downtime, I was jotting things down on my phone, copy and pasted it, emailed it to myself until I had a full-fledged manuscript. And, when I put it out there and published it, I was surprised because I did a little bit of promo for it, but not really because it's not my full-time job. And so to know that I've sold, 1,000 copies or more now, I feel so honored that so many people who don't know me cared enough to purchase my book, either paperback, hardback, or, listen, look at it on a Kindle. And so it's one of those things to know that people feel that my words, my message is having, and playing a small part, an impact on their life. I thank God for that opportunity.
And again, you've got that little jar of mustard seeds throughout the book. I feel like you're giving people mustard seeds. I think there's great messages, very relatable too. I'm a boy mom. You talk about your husband and your boys in there. Very relatable. Absolutely.
Thank
Yeah. And I like the subtitle too, Unscripted with the RX in there, Unscripted
Yes.
Pearls of Wisdom from a Wife, Mother, and Entrepreneur. Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing about that. Jade, as we start to wrap this up, where can people find you if they want to experience Ranger Consulting or find your book or just anything that you would like to share in addition to what we've already talked about?
Sure. So my book is online at Amazon, but also Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, Walmart. So really anywhere books are sold, you can actually purchase it online. But also it's for sale here on the bookshelf at our local Barnes & Noble for those who may be in the Williamsburg area or surrounding areas. And online, if you're interested in Ranger Consulting, that is going to be our website for the Prescription Shoppe, which is www.T as in Tom, P as in Paul, S as in Sam, V as in Victor, A as in Apple.com. So tpsva.com, which stands for the Prescription Shoppe Virginia. There's a link for Ranger Consulting there. And then also you can follow us on Instagram. We are on Facebook. And I'm on LinkedIn as well as my husband.
Awesome. You guys are two wonderful pharmacists to know. I love what you're doing with mentorship, what you're doing with independent pharmacy, the battle baskets, being an author, leaving a legacy. You do it all. Much respect. And I love that you're such a relatable mom too, because we're both boy moms and I just get you. So
thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you so much coming back to the podcast to talk about how you use your voice as an independent pharmacy owner and more. You take care, Jade. Happy American Pharmacists Month.
Thank you so much. The same to you. And thank you again for having me. I'll be on the show anytime.
I'd love to have you back, especially next time you write another book.
I'll be back then if that's the case.
All right. See you soon. Great interview. Thank you again to Dr. Jade L. Ranger for being my guest here on episode 246 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. This is American Pharmacists Month, and independent community pharmacy is the original pharmacy practice setting. Dr. Jade L. Ranger is an excellent example of a modern-day independent community pharmacy owner. She's practicing at the top of her license, which means so much more than it did when the profession was born. Am I right? She's providing immunizations, she's offering MTM sessions, she's mentoring the next generation of pharmacy owners, and so much more. At a time when community pharmacists are struggling, it is very refreshing to hear a success story from a pharmacist who sounds very fulfilled by her career. Again, it's refreshing to hear Dr. Ranger talk about her career. Shout out to Dr. Henry Ranger, Dr. Jade L. Ranger's partner in life and business. I have seen you two share your achievements with your network, including me, on LinkedIn, and I absolutely love seeing what you're up to. I recently saw a post about you two immunizing a bunch of college students, I think the College of William and Mary. That is amazing. I wish you both continued success in business and in life. You two are making an impact. And to my audience, thank you for joining me for episode 246 of the Pharmacist Voice podcast. Please visit thepharmacistvoice.com to read the show notes. In the show notes, you'll find a link to Dr. Jade L. Ranger on LinkedIn. You'll also find a link to the Prescription Shoppe in Williamsburg, Virginia, the book Mustard Seed Mentality, Unscripted Pearls of Wisdom from a Wife, Mother, and Entrepreneur by Dr. Jade L. Ranger, and so much more. Check out those show notes, thepharmacistvoice.com. Word of mouth is a great way to share ideas. So if you know someone who's interested in independent community pharmacy or any of the other topics covered in this episode, please share this episode with them and get your breast cancer screenings. All you ladies out there, my mom's a survivor too. I know you heard Jade talking about her mother and her older sister being survivors. Get those screenings. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. I'll be back on Friday, October 20th with a solo episode. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you next Friday.